Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, Stevie Nicol, Ali Moreno and Shaka Hislop alongside me. Gabmar Conte as well will be joining us a little later on as we focus on the Champions League. And we start with that result in Italy, Roma beating Chelsea by 3-0. And Stevie, this certainly doesn't flatter the host, does it?
No, I mean, I'm kind of stuck in the middle here whether to praise Roma or whether I stick with Chelsea and just talk about the problems, because going forward they were lifeless. In the middle of the park they left holes all over the place, and defensively so un-Conte team-like.
Yeah.
They made so many mistakes defensively. I mean, this was an absolute shambles.
Yes, it was. And you mentioned Antonio Conte, who we are used to seeing with a lot of energy and passion and yelling and screaming and pacing the silence and all these things. And what we saw from him today was an extension also of what we saw on the field. Just quiet. Just arms crossed and say, yeah, that's it. We're getting outplayed, we're getting destroyed, and that's about as good as it's going to get today. That was the sort of attitude that we saw from Chelsea today. You mentioned the word lifeless. It was lifeless across the board. There was no reaction from Chelsea. There was nothing about Chelsea today that you say, yeah, that's a defending champion in the Premier League. There was nothing about them that showed a championship team.
Look, I'm not sure where you start or indeed where you finish with Chelsea. You can look at individual errors. Rudiger for the goal, for one of the goals. You can look at team errors and a lack of communication, which I think is most surprising from an Antonio Conte team. You have 3 players chasing Edin Dzeko later on in the game. Should have been 4. You talk about N'Golo Kante missing, but you don't have any legs to replace him. That's an Antonio Conte. He's the one who sold Nemanja Matic. They don't have any depth on the bench, certainly through midfield. But then, more times than not, when Chelsea have not been great, they've been able to turn to their big game, big name players. Eden Hazard simply disappeared on the night. For me, he hasn't been good for the last couple of weeks, and as a result, Chelsea have struggled throughout.
How can this happen? How can there be such a great fall from grace from a side that looked so good, so compact, so organised, so difficult to break down last season?
To be honest, I think you have to look at the coach, because if all of those players that stepped on the field tonight for Chelsea are focused and they have his job is not about individual errors, any of that kind of stuff. His job is about getting a good shape, making sure everybody knows what the job is, and making sure that everybody does the job. That's his job.
In the 3-3 result at Stamford Bridge, we could see signs of a team that could get stretched by
cracks,
Roma. Yes, you could see that there were all sorts of issues out of the midfield. And if you don't learn from that and understand that this is something that you have to address, yes, N'Golo Kante is not there, but you cannot have Cesc Fabregas and somehow think that he's going to cover the ground for you. He's going to need some help. His legs were gone 2 years ago. What we see from him is that whenever he gets the ball somewhere in between the lines, he can find a pass. But other than that, he doesn't give you much. And so how do you then set up your team in a way in which you can be a little bit more responsible defensively out of the midfield so that you don't get run over by Perotti and De Rossi and Nainggolan, who simply run the game for Roma, and Chelsea nowhere to be found?
Let's bring Gabmar Conte into the conversation, shall we? Gab, it was interesting hearing from Antonio Conte after the game, saying that he felt that 2-0 at half-time he felt was an unfair scoreline, but then agreed, obviously, that his team did not perform as he would have liked in the second half.
Yeah, I know what he means, and I think Conte's issue here is Conte did the math before the game, and he looked at this and said, from Roma's perspective, a draw would be pretty much useless. If Roma drawn this game or lost the game, it really would have made very, very little difference to them because of the dynamics of the group and because they expected Atletico to beat Qarabag. So he imagined Roma coming out of the gate quickly and attacking them. And so he set up a team, or the original game plan was to basically take the pressure out of the game, take the sting out of the game early, set up a little bit deeper. That's why you can have, Fabregas in there, because if he doesn't have to cover a lot of space and he's just sitting there, he's fine. And then maybe you get something on the break, and then later in the game, you impose yourself a little more when Roma run out of steam. That, of course, all went out the window with the early goal. And I think where Conte, let himself down was he couldn't find the right reaction in his player. You know, it's almost as if there was no plan B at that stage. And I agree with Ali. You know, Cesc in central midfield in a game like this against a team that's going to be aggressive and run around a lot, you know, is a serious liability.
Where was the spark? Where was the fight that you would expect from Chelsea?
I don't know. Oftentimes you turn to Eden Hazard to provide that spark. As I mentioned, he hasn't delivered in that regard for the last couple of weeks. Last season, you could also look to Diego Costa to provide that spark. But of course, Alvaro Morata is brought in to fill that shoes. And just a different type of player, different type of mentality. So not that kind of get in your face and cause a fight type player in Morata. And as a result, everybody in Chelsea just kind of looking around at each other, trying to wonder who's going to lead this fight back.
Gab, what's happening at Chelsea? In your opinion, there just seems to be a lack of cohesion on the pitch, and off it, of course. We keep hearing these rumours come up about Antonio Conte and a fallout with board members.
Well, I think they're two distinct issues. I mean, that there are tensions, not so much with board members, because, you know, let's face it, they're all Abramovich puppets, but really with Marina Granovskaya, who effectively runs the club, and Michael Emenalo, the director of football. That's what's been reported, and it has to do with the summer where you know, Conte wanted certain players. He wanted the club to invest more money than they ended up investing, and most of all, to get that, he felt that he needed a direct pathway to Roman Abramovich, so he could make his pitch directly to him. That didn't happen, or certainly if it happened, it didn't yield the results. And that left him incredibly frustrated. Now, obviously, nobody likes it when somebody goes above your head to the big boss, and I think that created some tension. But that's been there for a while. I don't think, you know, that has much to do with what we're seeing now. I think it has to do with Conte being out. It has to do with Drinkwater not being on a level where he can step in for Conte, and Conte knows that. And some of the other factors we talked about, and also probably the fact that, you know, let's face it, they are playing twice a week. Last week they had a whole week to prepare with games. I think Conte can adjust to that, but he hasn't. He hasn't found the right way to adjust to that in the types of training sessions he has. He's got a lot of repetitive off-the-ball runs and stuff like that, which are difficult to go and do, and they're very taxing on the players when you've also got to play twice a week rather than just once a week.
Gab, they got United this weekend. A defeat against Jose Mourinho's side of this sort of manner as we saw today. Could we seriously be questioning Conte's future at Chelsea?
I think some people are already questioning it, and, you know, I think there was probably some popular sentiment that whatever happened, you know, this was going to be his final season at Chelsea. You know, he wins something and he leaves and says, thank you very much, new challenge, and he doesn't win, and then he gets sacked. Now, I've never fully bought into it, because I also think Conte's an emotional guy, and if he does well, he can get attached to players. He has gotten attached to some players. He's certainly attached to the fans. But I just don't see Chelsea at this stage, even a defeat to United, you know, unless something major happens, I don't see them giving up on the season just yet. I think the main priority this year is the Champions League and staying in the top four. I think they're on track to do that. I think they'll feel that they can do that even if they lose to United. And I also think the attitude of the club is that, you know, to be fair, N'Golo Kante's absence really is a major blow, and it affects the way Conte is working. So I think for that reason, I think I'd be very surprised if they sacked him simply because they lose to United at the weekend.
How aware would you be in the dressing room, boys, about these sort of the rumours and talks of Conte leaving at the end of the season? Does it affect players at all?
I don't think so. Listen, when you're playing, the thing you're focused on, as much as anything else, is yourself and making sure that you're prepared every time you step on the field. So all the stuff that goes on up the stairs is not something you really think about. I'm not buying it. What would worry me is the fact that if you're playing 2 and 3 games a week, why are you training?
Right.
It makes no sense. There's, you know, and that would worry me if I'm Abramovich as well, because I've got a coach who's all fire and brimstone at his best, but if he doesn't know when to switch gears and calm it down, that's a problem.
I think if you're a player, though, and you're looking for an excuse, and you're looking for reasons that things are going wrong and to point the finger somewhere, when you hear rumblings from above you, from the board or however it may be, then those are things that you can lean on. Those are things that you can use. Those are things that you can make an excuse and maybe use it as a crutch and say, well, we can't play well if he's not. I mean, he's not going to be here. He's not committed to staying here with us. Is he really going to be our manager? Is he not? I'm not saying it's a key contributor, but it's certainly something that if you're a player looking for reasons to pack it up, that's one of the reasons that you can utilize.
Look, all things being equal, I don't think it has too much of an effect on the players. All things being equal, I'd also agree with everything Gab said. The trouble is, you've got an owner who has proven in the past to be somewhat irrational in terms of sacking managers. Roman Abramovich has sacked managers at this stage of the season for a whole lot less, and that is the unknown quantity at play here. You just don't know what he's going to do, when he's going to do it, or why he's going to do it.
Let's just remind you then how the group stands after what else happened today, because there was a significant result in Spain. Atletico Madrid. Ooh. Currently manage a 1-1 draw against Qarabag, a team from Azerbaijan. The first time they've been in the Champions League. That is back-to-back draws against Qarabag that leaves them all but done. Like, Chelsea are going to get through this group now, along with Roma. Focusing on Simeone's side, what on earth has happened to Atleti?
Embarrassing.
Yeah.
Embarrassing from Atletico Madrid, back-to-back draws against Qarabag, but this one at home, when you know you have everything to play for and you don't come up with a performance that you would suggest was necessary.
Against 10-man Qarabag as well.
Yes. I would suggest that for Atletico Madrid, it always becomes an issue when they are given the responsibility to create the chances themselves. When they cannot just sit back and then counterattack teams. When they have to be the ones that say, okay, Qarabag gave him the ball and say, here you go, come on, go create opportunities. Go ahead. And you just don't see it. You don't see it. You don't see great performance from Antoine Griezmann.
It's still Qarabag.
Well, I know it's still Qarabag. I am telling you. Didn't I just say it's embarrassing to begin with?
I know, but you're trying to make excuses. Like you're talking about they're up against a real team.
No. Wasn't that the first thing that I just said? That is embarrassing for Atletico Madrid?
But you could have just finished there. It's embarrassing.
Okay, so you want me to talk or you don't want me to talk?
I understand that.
I'm trying to explain
if you're up against a real side, then Atleti have proven in the past that it's difficult for them to take it to a team. But this isn't a real team, is it?
Oh, well, apparently they are, Dan. Apparently they are. Apparently your knowledge of Azerbaijan top league is not what it should be.
I need to go back to school about Azerbaijan. Gab, you know about Azerbaijan stuff.
You want me to talk Qarabag or you want me to talk Atleti? I'm guessing you'd rather I talk some Atleti. I think Ali's right about them creating stuff, but only to a point. I mean, when they play in La Liga, when they play against the bottom 10 teams, you know, they're the ones who have the bulk of the possession. It's not like they can do the whole Simeone blood and thunder thing when they go and they play against Girona. I think what happened in this game, they created an absolute ton of chances and they simply didn't put them away. And I kind of feel, gee, what if they had a big free scoring center forward like, say, Diego Costa, a recurring theme tonight? Might that be a little bit different? And but of course, they had a transfer embargo over the summer, and that's why you're stuck with you know, your Correas and your Torreses and guys like that. That's just not the same thing.
But those are the same guys that took you to a Champions League final. The Griezmann and Correa and Torres and this and that. Right. Look, they have a way of playing.
In the Champions League final, in the knockout stages, you weren't playing against teams like Qarabag, who are just going to sit there and you pepper their goal, and sometimes it just doesn't go in.
I know, but they went through the competition. They went through the competition in order to get to that stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. They go through the competition in order to get to the finals. The fact is that this is a team that right now, as we look at it, they have peaked at some point, and it just feels like they cannot match what they have done in the past. We've talked about end of an era. It may just be that for Atletico Madrid.
Gab, I feel bad that in all this conversation that we've had, we haven't actually given that much love to Roma. You have the platform to do exactly that now.
I think it was a tremendous performance. I think Daniele De Rossi spoke afterwards about how, you know, he said, Roma beat Chelsea like 10 years ago. He says, I still remember that game. He obviously played in it. And these are nights that are going to give us a lift. I think it took a while with Eusebio Di Francesco's style of play. But what De Rossi said was, unlike previous managers, and I think maybe this was a little dig at Spalletti, we didn't calculate. We didn't worry so much about the opposition. We went out there with the freedom. And remember what I said before: a draw or defeat would have been entirely irrelevant to Roma. The only result that really mattered was a win here. And I think when you can. When Di Francesco can translate that freedom to his team, we saw it at Sassuolo, where they play with no fear. It doesn't necessarily mean run up the pitch and press the life out of the opposition, but don't play within yourself. Then you have people like El Shaarawy and Perotti attempting difficult things, and it's okay if they give the ball away because once in a while they can actually do difficult things. And I think when they play with the handbrake off, they can be a very dangerous side, as they showed.
Meanwhile, let's just check out Group B, shall we? Because victories for both PSG and Bayern Munich guarantee both of those European heavyweights a place in the knockout stages. Manchester United all but through to the knockout stages. 4 wins out of 4, a 100% record kept alive after a 2-0 victory at Old Trafford against Benfica. Gab. Let's talk about Jose Mourinho, shall we? What did he say after the game? What pearls of wisdom?
He was asked to talk about the game, and he said, I think it's better if we let the specialists, and I think he's talking about you, the media, the mainstream media, go and do that, and I'll just focus on working and doing my job and winning games and stuff like that. Yeah, the obvious thing to deflect it is that this was not a very good performance from Manchester United, although it was a good result against a team that were already eliminated effectively from the Champions League, and in which he made 6 changes to rest players ahead of the weekend in the big game against Chelsea.
Someone say something.
Go ahead, Shaq.
Someone say something about
you go, Steve.
It's just getting
Steve, you go.
tiresome.
I really can't work this guy out, I mean, you talk about an attention seeker. Again, your team's won. You've made a lot of changes and you've still won the game. How about praising some of your players? How about praising some of the guys that you brought in? But no, bring it all back about yourself. I mean, it gets tiresome, and I think eventually the players are going to get tired of it as well.
Yeah. Do you think so?
I think so, yeah. When the manager never goes out his way ever to give the team or him or individuals any praise and is always talking about himself, I think eventually that gets old.
But in the dressing room, he must have a different persona, surely. Like, if you had a good game and, as you say, you came in for this match, he would be... So would that really make a difference for a player? If he's saying it to you one-on-one after a match, does it really matter what he says in the media?
Listen, right now, with the amount of money that players get and the amount of egos that are kicking around in every single dressing room, not just at places like Manchester United, you won't believe the egos at teams in the bottom half of the Premier League. They all think they're all superstars. So, that does make a difference. And I think players will get fed up listening to him talking about himself.
I think it also makes a difference, given that Jose Mourinho will quite happily criticise you in the media. And we're not sure whether he's saying the same things in the dressing room or not.
Right.
But he will come out, if you've had a bad game, if there's something that he doesn't like, it will get thrown out there. So if you sit in that dressing room, regardless of what he says, you also, if you play well, you want a little bit of praise.
Speak. Calm down.
Yeah, calm down.
Too much. Just calm down.
Meanwhile, let's just take a look at what else happened today in Group D. Gonzalo Higuain.
Hey!
As Juve got a 1-1 draw against Sporting. Meanwhile, Barcelona are in trouble.
Crisis!
0-0 against Olympiakos. Welcome back. Certainly one of the big games on Wednesday. Napoli against Manchester City. Gab, this was a great match at the Etihad. City, of course, winning 2-1 in the end. This should be another great spectacle, shouldn't it?
It should be, and what I'm really looking forward to is to see these two great tactical managers take each other on. I'll be interested in seeing whether Pep Guardiola, perhaps thinking back to that second half when Napoli really took the game to them, whether he somehow changes his approach, mindful of the fact that he's not often gonna be taking on a coach like Maurizio Sarri and Napoli, and maybe when you look at it, also mindful of the fact that Sarri's really been doing miracles with this team because, guys, you go through this player for player, and with the exception of Fawzi Ghulam at left back ahead of Fabian Delph, possibly Koulibaly ahead of Otamendi, I don't see too many more Napoli players that would be getting into the City starting 11.
The SBI says you are talking nonsense, Gab Conte, because Napoli are favourites, 40% to take all 3 points. Shaka, what's your prediction for this one?
I think Napoli get a narrow win at home in a game that they simply can't afford to lose. I think some of that unexpected quality shines through.
Oh. A narrow win, but multiple goals by both teams.
7-6.
That would be nice. we'll take it. It'll be open. Both of these teams like to attack, and they have difficulties defending. I see, again, an open game and an entertaining match.
I'm going for a scoring draw. I think regardless of what Team City put on the field, Pep and his players only know how to play one way. And Napoli, same thing. They only know, right now, under this coach, they only play one way. So I think it's all guns blazing. It'll be a draw.
Spurs against Real Madrid at Wembley, certainly one of the biggest matches in the Champions League on Wednesday. 1-1 at the Santiago Bernabeu. Great matchup it was in Spain, hoping for more of the same at Wembley. Richard Pochettino says that it looks like Harry Kane will return. So, considering all that, Shaq, what is your prediction?
I think Spurs get the job done at Wembley.
What does that mean? What does that mean, the job done?
I think they win.
Oh, OK.
I think Spurs win at Wembley with Harry Kane. But I'm a little bit surprised he's taking a chance on Harry Kane with the games to come. North London derby in a couple of weeks. But still, this team at home and Real Madrid struggling as they are, I think Spurs win.
And it's an unnecessary chance you're taking if you're Spurs. If he's not ready to play, if he's not fully fit, I don't know that this is worth it because you're going to get through in this group anyways. I think Real Madrid, they show a reaction. They show something that they haven't shown this season yet. Their best performance, they beat Spurs away from home.
Ooh. I'm going in between the two of you. I'm going for a draw. And I also think to take a chance on Harry Kane is absolute madness. Just play your renty. Just give the guy a game. Anyway, I think it's a draw. I think Spurs will just sit tight and make sure they don't make any mistakes.
Nobody gets in between me and Ali.
But I just think Real Madrid will score as well.
My prediction, one of you will be right, two will be wrong.
Hey!
Find out tomorrow.